Barclays and the Department for International Trade have signed a 5-year partnership that will support UK businesses to grow and expand through international trade. It's our aspiration to help more businesses grow and succeed through trading overseas in order to secure their long-term prosperity. Now, we know how difficult and time-consuming it can be for SMEs to research the global marketplace. So rather than focus upon different international regions, we have worked with the Department of International Trade and other partners to make it as easy as we can for time-poor business owners to access key export insight by creating a series of on-demand sector-focused videos. By looking at key sectors, we can help businesses understand where the global markets are and therefore reduce the time that they need to spend looking for new opportunities. These videos will point businesses in the right direction and ensure that the support and insight is focused around their activity. My name is Paul Bowman from Barclays, and I'm delighted to introduce Rupert Daniels, Director of Services and Skills at the Department for International Trade, who will talk to us about how you can take advantage of the global opportunities in his sector and share some practical advice for businesses looking to export and grow. Rupert, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Paul. Delighted to be here today. So, yes, I'm the Director of Services and Skills at the UK's Department for International Trade. And that covers a variety of sectors, a very wide portfolio. So everything from financial, professional and business services through to digital, creative, consumer and retail, sport, and a number of other sectors, which we'll be talking about during the course of the meeting today.
That's great. Thank you very much. Now, I have to say that the views and opinions Rupert expresses are his own and do not constitute advice from Barclays. And also note that each business is different, and we do recommend that you carry out your own independent research before you make any decisions that will impact your business. So Rupert, again, thank you very much for joining us and sharing your thoughts. Thinking of the digital education and creative sector, where do you see the opportunities for UK businesses looking to grow through exports?
Well, this is a fascinating area to be involved with because the UK's got such a fabulous international reputation for creativity. You know, if there's one thing that you could say that the UK has in abundance and is globally known for, it's creativity. It's also digital, it's innovation, it's research, and it's probably also about how we think and thinking about things differently. So if we start, for example, with digital commerce, and I deliberately use the term digital commerce because everyone's familiar with e-commerce, but e-commerce tends to imply sort of a B2C, but actually the way that we tend to work is by helping UK businesses trade on a B2B basis or even a B2B2C basis. So in this area, the US and the EU remain our most important markets, and we can provide extra support in things like VAT issues. So our specialists, we have a team of dedicated digital commerce specialists, but also we're looking at markets like Canada, like China, Australasia, ASEAN. These are becoming increasingly important markets. And the growth markets really are those kind of markets in ASEAN, but the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and also Africa, which is really addressing mobile commerce in a big way because you've got a whole generation who've skipped tablets, skipped laptops, and are transacting, in fact, running nearly every element of their life, of their business through mobile. So mobile commerce and working with people like the GSMA and the Mobile World Congress, which was recently in Africa, where a team from the DIT was presenting and part of the panel discussions there. How can we help facilitate trade using mobile commerce? So turning to education, we're seeing amazing opportunities across all sectors of education, but very specifically education technology, because of the acceleration of the need to work online due to the pandemic. It's really fueled a boom in edtech, and not just in the schools and the university sectors, but also in the skills sectors, in the continuing professional development sections in the workplace as well. So we're seeing opportunities right across the Americas and increasingly in North America, but specifically in Australia, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, India, Europe, Africa, and LATAM. So more or less the whole of the world. And we've got a great edtech, very vibrant sector. So we can use this, whether it's teaching English language, We had a big success improving standards of English language teaching in Panama recently. And generally, English language training more generally has moved online from being a bit of a kind of a language tourism element to actually we can deliver all of this training online. So there's specific opportunities in LATAM. We work very closely with governments in Brazil, in Mexico, in Chile, and the British Council is one of our major partners. And they're inviting applications for innovative and collaborative approaches to the provision of ELT in places like Vietnam, particularly through EdTech. And this is also linking in the skills and vocational training element. And we see this as a need across the whole of the education system. So whether that's in Saudi Arabia, where they've got their Vision 2030, the work we're doing in India, again, across LATAM and China, but most of all, Southeast Asia, particularly Vietnam and Indonesia. And Vietnam, we've recently signed a memorandum of understanding with the Ministry of Education, along with the Philippines, who we're working on a major rail project, their first major rail project in 100 years. And there are literally thousands of different skills requirements which need to be taught. So we're looking to make sure that UK companies are positioned for that RFP when it comes around very shortly. Let's talk about creative industries. Now, creative industries covers everything from film, television, music, publishing, architecture. It's about 15 different subsectors. But probably for us, North America and Europe are the two most important regional markets, with the USA being the biggest global market overall in the sector. Although China, as it's now coming out of its COVID restrictions and opening up a bit more, again, I think will provide further opportunity. The Gulf states are key long-haul markets, and India and Southeast Asia are also really growing in importance. So there's great demand for the UK's creative content, advertising, for example. So last but not least, turning to sports, which is something which is very close to my heart. Before being a civil servant, I worked in the sports industry on various different World Cups and in the Premier League for Arsenal Football Club. So the World Cup's just finished, but we're actually looking already towards the next World Cup, which is going to be US, Canada, and Mexico. Australia is hosting the next Commonwealth Games, and Saudi Arabia are looking to host various games and building whole new city projects, and indeed a whole new sports boulevard through Riyadh, which is a great opportunity for UK architects, for designers, for construction companies, but also experiential companies who are going to build the fan experiences for these events, not just physically, but virtually in the Web3, in the metaverse environments. So we're actively exploring these kind of opportunities for UK businesses. Looking in Latin America, we've got the Pan American Games taking place in Colombia. That's going to be 2027. So having done a lot of work in the Lima Games in 2019, we're really well positioned as the UK to compete for opportunities to win business in Barranquilla, where the Pan American Games will take place. So we've got about a 10-year pipeline for the entire life cycle of major sports events, which we're looking at very carefully, and we're building a program of activities so that we position UK companies in the optimal way to gain access to the bidding and to win those contracts.
That's really interesting, and I think what a lot of our viewers today will need to just remember is the piece that just because they're in, maybe they have a perception of what sector that they're in. So going back to your point about architects and experiential people, they need to understand the opportunities lie in sectors such as sports and those opportunities globally. So that's really, really helpful to understand. Thank you. Moving on then, but obviously you've spoken about a fair few sectors there, but there will be different routes to market in each of these regions. Perhaps you could take us through what perhaps may be the most appropriate ones at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's firstly worth talking about digital and the role that digital will play, particularly in the services sector. And by 2050, it's estimated that at least 50% of all trade globally will be digital. So the DIT's digital exporting program really helps companies get to grips with this, to go global via e-commerce, social commerce, mobile commerce, as we talked about before, social selling through platforms like Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, and whatever else is to come in the future. So whether that's a business to business or business to consumer or a B2B2C kind of partnership, we've got a team of experts who are really well positioned to help UK companies place their products, place their services on those platforms, and benefit from that global marketplace. And perhaps a good example, you asked about, specific examples in specific markets. We recently have partnered with Walmart, who will be familiar to most people as one of the world's largest retailers. But what this does, we're trying to help UK companies access over about £100 million plus of export opportunities in this business with Walmart.com over the next 18 to 24 months. And you could extend that. So in our International Trade Week earlier this year, we worked very closely with Amazon and with Alibaba. And people often associate Alibaba, for example, with China, but they're one of the largest e-commerce platforms in the world. Places like Turkey and Italy, Alibaba is a massive, massive marketplace. So we're trying to make sure that UK companies understand that opportunity, working with the platforms themselves to optimize the chances of success so that their products are visible, their services are visible, and we're able to sell into those platforms.
So what about in the education environment?
So education, as we discussed previously, is, we're not just all about ed tech, although ed tech is a massive, massive part of that, principally also because of the digital element of global trade. But we work with trade associations like BISA, which help us to access markets across the Middle East. So we work at BET, which is the biggest education technology conference, both here in the UK at BET Global and at BET Asia, and a conference called GES Dubai, which is where we tend to have a big DIT stand and satellites for UK suppliers who are actually embedded in our trade fair stand, so they can organise meetings. And it's a bit like a matchmaking affair where our suppliers will meet people who want to buy their services, buy their products. So we actually act as a bit of a kind of a matchmaker in that respect. So we often also take UK education providers via a consortium. We'll take a consortium overseas. For example, we've recently visited the Philippines, Vietnam, India, Saudi Arabia. And this could be in an area like skills and vocational training, which is a massive growth area as well, as people really start to think about the needs for continual development. And also as people are exiting university, people really need the skills for life. So digital literacy or team working or social skills or project skills. And that's where also a lot of our focus in the UK education offer comes from.
So what tends to be the best routes to market in these regions for the various sectors?
Well, I think one of the things which really works very well is that we have an extensive program across, whether it's creative or consumer and retail or education or sports. We create a series of activations, whether that's based around a major trade show or a conference. But what we tend to do is organize trade missions. And this really helps companies sort of zero in and access buyers. So in its simplest sense, it's all about supply and demand. So here in the UK, the department identifies companies which might be suitable for a particular opportunity. So it might be immersive technology, VR, AR, mixed reality, etc., in the entertainment space. So we'll take a trade mission, and this is a very real case. We've done this recently in Saudi Arabia and Dubai, and we'll take 20 plus companies and we'll have a program where we'll introduce those companies who've got something to sell to the buyers. So these could be big chains of mall developers, for example, who are looking for immersive experiences in malls across the whole of the Middle East. It could be the tourism authority. It could be individual venture capital companies who are looking to make investments. So we've got a global calendar. So whether that's part of the creative industries or education or consumer and retail, we just ran a very successful event earlier this year in Dubai with the British Beauty Council. So companies who are involved in this area. And beauty is not just about physical products; it's all about the services. And it's the number one category on TikTok and Instagram. So we just need to make sure that actually, however we create these physical products, there's a whole raft of services which run alongside it, which are equally interesting to us. And similarly in sport, we're currently looking at a series of sports trade missions, potentially looking at all the areas we identified as future pipelines where there's going to be major sporting events, so whether it's World Cups or Commonwealth Games. So missions to Australia, to Saudi Arabia, to the USA, to Canada, to Mexico. So that's probably the best way to access new markets.
Thank you very much for that, Rupert. You've given us a great deal of insight and knowledge and understanding of the key things that people need to be aware of in that creative, the digital, the sports sectors, and understanding how business is undertaken in different parts of the world, how we do things around here. And understanding those cultural issues are incredibly important and sometimes are intangible. But what I suppose as we come to the end of this, what I'd really like to understand is how can DIT help businesses identify partners with which to trade and take the business to the next level?
Yeah, that's incredibly important, particularly the cultural elements. And that's why the organizational structure of DIT is so unique, in that what we've got, if you like, is a bit of a hub and spoke model. So you've got a team of DIT experts based across the whole of the United Kingdom. But also what you've then got is a team of 9 trade commissioners which cover the whole world, and they support about 80 different key markets all over the world. There's 40 trade envoys. So what we're able to do is connect UK businesses to overseas buyers through this network, but also really understand, the way that business is done. So, developing relationships in places like in China and the Middle East is crucially important. And perhaps a really good example of this, we've just seen the World Cup has just finished, but 4 out of the 8 stadiums were built and designed by UK companies, UK architects principally. But it's that longer term pipeline of major sporting events, and not just in the sports arena, in museums, in leisure facilities. There's a great pipeline, but the reason that those companies were successful was because of our local network supporting them in the local cultural elements, and also helping them to win business in other areas across the region as we become aware of it. So our sector teams work closely with DIT overseas network teams, and this is a really a sweet spot for DIT, and this applies across the United Kingdom. So we've got international trade advisors across the UK, rolling out across Wales, Northern Ireland, and Scotland as well, and DIT offices in Edinburgh, Belfast, and Cardiff, which support companies right across the length and breadth of the United Kingdom.
Thank you, Rupert. That's been really helpful, the guidance and insight around what DIT do and how you can help businesses access all of the opportunities, be it digitally, be it on an international trade advisor basis, be it through gov.uk. So that's really, really helpful. Thank you very much. And it's great to hear that there are so many opportunities for UK SMEs across the globe, and to understand the range of support available from the DIT, both at home, on the ground, and across the world. Rupert, many thanks for your time today.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
I'm delighted to say that we are also joined by Arshad Dadabhoy, who is a trade and customs specialist at the Institute of Export and International Trade. Now, the Institute is a key supporter and facilitator of international trade within the UK, and they provide practical guidance and advice for all sizes of businesses in all sectors. Arshad, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
Perhaps you could give us a brief overview as to how the Institute supports businesses who may be looking to trade overseas.
Absolutely. So, Paul, our website is export.org.uk, and all our products and services are listed on there. But I'll go through some of those, if I may. So we've got a comprehensive list of public courses where all companies can log on and book a course, and they range from they're open to all people of all different experiences. So you might be a novice, or you might be an experienced exporter who wants to refresh your skills. So we've got courses like SPS, Advanced Exporting and Importing courses. We've got courses on excise goods, SPS, Advanced Economic Operator, rules of origin, which is particularly important at the moment, given the situation we're in with the EU. So if a company wants to make sure they're compliant in terms of their products and preference and how to claim that. So we've got those. We also offer consultancy, Paul. So that's, we go on site and we can help with outward processing, inward processing, any issues that you might have with licensing, registrations. Our experts can come and help you with that. We've got something which is known as a customs health check. So we'll go in, our expert will go in and they'll review your entire end-to-end process, looking at your documentation, having conversations with your with personnel inside that company, and then coming and presenting to you a report. So looking at where you are, where you want to develop, where your areas of non-compliance or areas of concern. And this is a fresh pair of eyes coming in and doing an audit, ahead possibly before a HMRC visit, just to make sure that you're fully compliant. We also do mini consultancies online. So if you've got an issue and you need some resolving, we book a 2-hour slot with one of our consultants, and they'll be happy to meet you and help you diagnose the situation that you're in. And we also have Vega, a new product, interim sort of positions. If you have a maternity need cover or sickness or anything like that, we can send an expert in and they can fit in and support those roles too.
So thank you for that. And there's plenty of ways there for businesses to access the Institute services then. And it's great that we've been able to work together, and many of my colleagues within Specialist Client Solutions in Barclays have undertaken the Institute's international trade examination. So we're really delighted with that. Now, earlier we heard from Rupert Daniels from the Department for International Trade about the global opportunities within the creative, lifestyle, learning and sports sector. And Rupert told us about the many and varied opportunities in this sector, which is one that businesses may be able to participate in, despite thinking that they're not directly related to it. For example, architects could find opportunities in this sector through stadium design and construction, or lighting companies could support experiential parts of future football World Cups, for example, or global athletics opportunities. Now, as difficult as it may be, therefore, across such a broad sector, but from your perspective, in the Institute's perspective, what do you see as the biggest barriers for new exporters into these regions, and how can they overcome them?
So this is a diverse sector, like you've mentioned. This encompasses either products, services, a combination of both. And we've seen phenomenal growth in this sector from the UK. Take education, for example. I've traveled out to China, Malaysia, and it's great to see British universities having campuses out there providing degrees. So they saw an opportunity that not everybody can afford to come to the UK. So let's take the UK out there and attract students there locally. Fantastic initiative, and it's working very well. So that's another way of capturing opportunities for British business. But the key challenge, and I think this goes across all sectors, particularly with media, creative, education, in the fields that you've mentioned here, is investment. Now that's a big barrier. These are whatever project that you go in, particularly in this sector, requires a significant amount of investment. Now there are Barclays can support with that, I'm pretty sure. But there needs to be a robust business plan, a business case that needs to be presented. You need to be convinced as a company that the opportunity that you're going after is supported by solid evidence before you make those commitments.
Thank you. And you're absolutely correct. In terms of being able to be on the front foot, it is about making sure that the finances stack up, both from a working capital perspective and, of course, an overall investment perspective. So that's great to hear. Are there any sector-specific challenges, such as licensing, documentation or certification, that businesses operating in these regions may face and need to be aware of? And I suppose, what are the most efficient ways to manage these?
There are a number of challenges, and we do get many calls on this. Some of the challenges are visas, for example. So we're sending technicians out to a stadium that needs lighting up, or we're sending an engineer out. So the key challenges here are visas, carnets, understanding what documentation is required, understanding how long someone is going out for, what the sort of working time directives are in particular countries, understanding what the minimum wage is, because some that's coming into play as well. How can I take equipment in? For example, I'm taking a set of tools in and I'm going to be bringing them back. What paperwork do I need? It's not now you're particularly with the EU and some of the bands and the gigs that are going on from British bands going over there, they could take all their equipment across and bring them back without issue. Now they're taking in and they're being stopped at the border, for example. So there are some challenges there, and they do need documentary requirements and values and carnets and things, and places like the Chamber of Commerce would help you organize those types of paperwork.
Thank you. And I think it's really important as well. When we think of this sector, there's a lot of movement across borders when people are out, be that engineers working overseas,
Yes.
or be that musicians traveling around. And therefore, it's not just being able to understand what the requirements are in one country. It's about getting from country A to B to C to D, etc., etc. So getting your head around that can be complex. And whilst it might be complex, hopefully it shouldn't be something that precludes people from obviously taking part in the sectors. Now, you mentioned earlier that you get a lot of questions within this particular area. So I suppose, one of the things is that sometimes we don't know what we do. Sorry, we don't know what we don't know. So as a result of that, and trying to help people just think perhaps a little bit more broadly, what are the most frequent questions to the Institute asked by businesses looking to export to these regions and in these sectors?
So remember, but keeping in mind this is the media creative sector as well that comes. Do I need a license? How do I collect royalties? Do I need a agreement to enter into with a licensing agreement? How do I manage that? Now, your typical lawyer or accountant isn't going to be able to put those sort of robust agreements in. So that's one of the questions we get. How can we find an expert to help us with that? Where do I get a carnet from? What is a carnet? We've never heard of one. I'm just going in for a couple of gigs in the south of France and I'm coming back. Can I take my guitar with me and then I bring it back? What's the situation with that? Can I work in the EU? Do I need a visa? We're a company that repairs refrigeration machinery, and there's a big breakdown in Italy in a supermarket, and we need to go and replace a compressor, but we're just sending engineers out with tools to do that. The equipment's already gone. What do I need to do now? Because the tools are going to be coming back, and the compressor wasn't bought from us, and how do we invoice? So there's lots of questions like that are coming through.
Thank you. That piece around movement of additional material and additional components to allow people to undertake these types, be that within, thinking here of lighting rigs for concerts, for experiential services, etc., is incredibly important. And it's great to hear that the Institute is able to help with some of those questions, or alternatively, direct many people to other providers who can support. So you mentioned the Chamber earlier. So there's a huge amount for businesses to think about, explore and prepare for when looking to export efficiently and safely. So thank you, Arshad, for that guidance. Having worked with the Institute on a number of initiatives, including getting many of our colleagues qualified, I know that the experts and the expertise from the Institute is valued by so many different types of clients and parties across the economy. And it's great that the Institute and yourself has been able to support this series of videos that we're putting together. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And now over to David Gowans, head of our Eagle Labs industry team and a former leader of our gaming and esports team here in Barclays, and someone who has a special understanding of the creative sector. David's got significant experience in these markets, and he's going to be giving us an overview of some of the ways in which Barclays is supporting clients to grow and succeed. Hello, David, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, Paul. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk today.
Brilliant. Now, before we start, the views and opinions that David expresses are his own and do not constitute advice from Barclays. I also note that each business is different, and we do recommend that you carry out your own independent research before you make any decisions that will impact your business. But it's great to have you with us, David. Perhaps you can give us a quick overview of Barclays business and the team that you support.
Hi, thanks, Paul. Absolutely. So I sit within our Eagle Labs network, and I run the team that looks at how we can best support industries and help them grow. That includes games, my previous team, creative, agri-tech, energy, health, law, and new emerging industries. And we're all about looking at how we can support entrepreneurs and fledgling businesses that are setting out in these fields, connecting them, building networks, and helping them grow and move forward.
That's great. Thank you very much. Really interesting to hear the work that Eagle Labs are doing. So good luck with that. Now, we heard earlier from Rupert Daniels from the Department for International Trade, who gave us some great insight into the global opportunities in this very broad sector. And it sounds as though there are some interesting areas for businesses to explore in a very wide range of countries. These do, however, of course, present a number of challenges. So I suppose, what do you believe the biggest hurdles are to international growth, and how can businesses overcome these?
Well, a significant part of the challenge is knowing who to speak to and where to go to for guidance and advice. The support shown by the DIT and also the Institute of Export really helps to demystify much of the complexity around practical issues. However, many Barclays clients have spoken to us about less identifiable aspects, such as setting their business up for exports, ensuring that their staff are trained in the processes and administration, and also how they can do this in a sustainable fashion. I think that businesses that look at exports as a key part of their operations will ensure that issues such as these are baked into their processes, but there are still many other financial challenges that have to be borne in mind. Different payment terms and payment security, credit arrangements, and the possible impact on the overall cash flow of longer supply chains or multiple routes to market can have a direct consequence on AA businesses' ability to manage the existing operations. So we ask business owners to understand whether their businesses can manage the longer payment terms that may be required without detriment to their existing domestic trade, for example. Understanding how transferable or flexible your own offering is can be crucial to taking advantage of overseas opportunities. Some businesses may not consider that their product or service is suitable for exporting, or indeed can take advantage of their opportunities within the sector. Barclays, however, has helped a number of clients explore different sectors and understand how their business fits in. I know of one business we've helped win contracts in the global exhibition space who previously only considered domestic opportunities.
Thank you, David, for that. Now turning to the matter of international trade and exporting itself, what are our clients telling us about the challenges they're facing when they're trading internationally?
A key consideration that our clients ask us about is documentation and regulation. The amount of administration for exporting products or services in these sectors can be significant. In addition, you'll need to consider Incoterms that define who is responsible for what parts of distribution and delivery process. This can be complex, but Barclays can help businesses find out what is needed and help you understand your responsibilities and costs. Clients also want to learn more about the benefits of exporting and what impact it will have on their existing business. What will be the additional administration requirements? How do they resource these, either internationally or externally through services offered by the Institute of Export or a shipping agent, for example? Some businesses may have become exporters almost by accident. An overseas client has, for example, found their website or been recommended to them. But how does the business owner identify those new opportunities, where they can go to find new markets and which ones can be best suited to their products? It was great to hear from Rupert of the DIT as the potential for UK exporters in the creative, lifestyle, learning and sports sector, and the reputation, innovation and creativity of UK businesses within that environment is internationally renowned. It opens doors, but how do you know they're the right doors? Finally, the practicalities of trading overseas is always of interest to our clients. The way in which potential overseas clients do business, such as likely payment terms, what are the preferred routes to market, for example? Within the gaming industry, the accessibility of internet services will define whether a product is delivered through mobile or console. So understanding the delivery mechanisms and route to market from the outset can help in terms of games development and its likely market penetration. Whilst Barclays can't answer every question, we can help with some, and signpost to organisations such as DIT or the Institute of Export, as well as trade bodies. And one last point of concern we're frequently asked about is how businesses can find out about parties that we can transact with. This ease of insight can be a considerable challenge. So it's great to hear of the support that the DIT can provide on the ground and access support to different countries.
Thank you, David. I suppose the final question to you really is how is Barclays actually helping businesses overcome these challenges and then maximise some of the opportunities that we've heard about?
Well, I think one great example of this is that the games industry and our support in helping that sector. The games industry is a global industry, so to compete no matter where you are in the world, you need to compete and look at the global sector. We also take that approach and look at how the businesses of all types can help themselves grow and look at what the global offerings have in place. After all, being paid and delivering a quality service and product is what it's all about. But there's a trade-off called the risk ladder, where in the way in which a client pays dictates how much risk there may be in the transaction. We can help businesses understand what risks may be involved when receiving payment upfront or on an open account, and can help explain the benefits of using documentary collections or letters of credit, and again, what their obligations will be. For example, if you've entered into a letter of credit, don't settle the invoice, or the other way around, you may end up paying twice. Of course, we can help with all kinds of payment acceptance methods and foreign currency requirements. If a business has incomings and outgoings in the same currency, use a foreign currency account and can help manage, reduce, or potentially extinguish foreign exchange risks. And some businesses may need to provide a form of guarantee to a beneficiary, such as an advance payment guarantee or an HMRC bond for duty deferment. We can help businesses with those requirements as well, ensuring that they understand their responsibilities when using them. Within Eagle Labs as well, we can support with insight and opportunities to learn across the wide range of topics, including management team development, raising equity, accessing new support channels, and other key management learning opportunities.
David, really, thank you very much for that. That's been incredibly helpful. Just a quick point from me though, letters of credit products are available to clients of Barclays Bank UK PLC through referral to Barclays Bank PLC. Referred products will be owned and administered by Barclays Bank PLC, and a portion of the revenue generated from referred products may be shared with Barclays UK PLC. Alternative service providers in the market may offer similar products, and all credit and risk policies are subject to individual business financial status. Terms and conditions apply, of course. Now, there are many ways in which Barclays is helping its clients to access these opportunities and ensure that they grow with confidence and security. David, many thanks for your time today. It's been great to hear how Barclays is supporting businesses within this sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.